He's willing to sacrifice once again to defend the United States and defend your great state against people who would run it down and criticize it and condemn it. And that's why he needs you to defend it as well. I can tell you the fight in Washington, D.C. is pretty intense these days. You may have noticed I take a lot of fire from the Democrats and the media. But you know what? As we learned in the Army, you're only taking fire when you're close to the targets. Now, and Adam knows that as well. Adam spent 4 years as your chief law enforcement officer trying to keep Nevadans safe. But the Democratic Party and Cortez Masto, they have spent the last year apologizing for criminals, letting them out of prison, not sending them to prison in the first place, calling the BLM riots last summer mostly peaceful protests, standing in front of burning buildings, apologizing for billions of dollars of damage done, when what should have happened is the absolute and immediate restoration of law and order on our streets to protect innocent civilians from gangsters and rioters. You know, you may recall that last summer when some politicians were out marching with the BLM rioters, I wrote a little op-ed that said, you know what, if Democratic mayors and Democratic governors won't use their police and won't use the National Guard to restore order, then yes, it is time to send in the troops to protect innocent civilian life. And I didn't just say that on the Senate floor. I went into the belly of the beast. I wrote it on the op-ed page of the New York Times. And you may have recalled what happened next. The little child tyrants who run the New York Times had a total meltdown. A record number of subscriptions got canceled. The editor who ran it got fired. They appended a little note to it that apologized for running my op-ed. They said it didn't meet their standards. I agree with that for once with the New York Times. I didn't meet their standards. I far exceeded their standards. But never once did I back down, because whether it's an online social media mob, a mob of woke children at the New York Times, or an actual mob in the streets, I will never bend the knee to a politically correct mob who hates America. And you know who else won't? Adam Maxwell won't either. And that crime wave continues. In those riots last year, you had a Las Vegas police officer who was shot in the head and is paralyzed. Murders increased at a higher rate than at any time on record, while the Democrats are trying to defund the police and let prisoners out of jail. And Kathy Cortez Masto is going along with all of it. And that crime wave is being fueled by total chaos at our southern border. Again, something that Kathy Cortez Masto thinks is just fine. They're having the orderly processing of migrants who are fleeing persecution. Friends, I've been to the border. It's nothing orderly about it. It is totally open, and it is total chaos. And drugs and criminals and gangsters are flooding across our border, threatening our lives and our safety and our well-being and our kids. Now, we may not be on the border right now. We're not in Arkansas either. But when drugs from Mexico are flooding our streets, every town in America is a border town. And every town deserves a secure border that is enforced and that protects our sovereignty. Yet these Democrats, they don't think that border enforcement is xenophobic and nativist. They think borders, period, are xenophobic and nativist. That they're somehow embarrassed that we should have borders that we defend and that we protect our American citizens from. That's their position now. That's Kathy Cortez Masto's position. If you elect Adam Laxalt to the United States Senate next year, I assure you he will work with the rest of us to get the border under control and to stand up to the radical Biden administration.